Hi, my name is McCulloch and I'm from the University of Oxford. I want to talk to you about the development of a minimum viable system. Let's start off with what do we mean by the concept of a system and how do we enable good systems that can transition well. So the first thing to remember is that a system is basically a combination of multiple interactions. We start off with, say, an individual company and organization that is innovating and is using the lean startup method by Eric Ries and is developing a minimum viable product. And if you haven't read the book, I suggest you read that because that gives you a very good introduction on how to actually develop a product in a very good way. So a minimum viable product is basically a product that we use to understand what value we can create to deliver a particular service or product. The challenge comes in when you don't just have one MVP or minimum viable product under development, but rather you have two or more coming in. And what makes it more complicated is that they're actually interacting with each other. So you have flows between the different minimum viable product. And obviously in more complex real systems, you don't just have one, you have multiples of them happening simultaneously. And so as we start to build it up, we also find actually there are going to be some flows that are going to be external to the partners that are part of that system. As we start to build up this complex system, we need to understand how can we do it effectively. The challenge is how do we ensure the system transition meets the requirements that we're all hoping to do? And how do we ensure that the multiple parties work together effectively to develop that societal change that that system is trying to achieve? So what we're going to do is we're going to adapt the thinking of Eric Ries and apply it to systems. So what we start off with is to have a look at to identify what is the societal need that we are trying to achieve. This is slightly different from what Eric Ries proposed, because he was saying what is an individual's need that we're going to meet, and here we're actually trying to meet a broader societal need. And so we need to get relevant stakeholders together to identify what that is. Rather than having a single idea, what the societal need now does is inspires a theory of change. Now the theory of change is an approach where we understand what activities we do now are going to flow through to enable change in a larger system. From those theories of change, we can start to identify also what are some of the indicators that we know that we are actually progressing well through that theory of change, and those we'll need later. But from the theory of change, we understand what is the first steps we need to take in order to produce our minimum viable system. So we take those ideas and we build our first minimum viable system, which composes of multiple actors working together that we talked about earlier on. From those interactions, we now no longer just work out the key data points. We need to measure also what is the quality of the processes, those internal and external flows, as well as the KPIs, the key performance indicators that we identified in the theory of change. These both allow us to understand what is the process maturity we have in those interactions between those minimum viable products, and also gives an indicator of are we actually progressing in the right direction. Understanding the process and the KPIs leads us to learning where we can then find out whether we need to adapt our theory of change to make sure that we are actually moving towards the system change that we're looking for, or is it the societal need that we're having is actually not correctly understood. So this quick overview gives you basically the core ideas of how to set up your own minimum viable ecosystem so that you can start to progress your particular change. We're using these ideas in exploring and developing a new local energy system within Oxfordshire, which we hope will have relevance not only to within the wider context of the UK, but also globally. Thank you very much for listening.